Overwatch 2 has got a power creep problem, and I think we really need to discuss this and try and look at what is going on with the balance of the game and probably highlight, I guess, some of the ways that the balance is kind of going to go really bad if we carry on down this path. In fact, this might even lead us back to some very dark days in Overwatch 1, and we've all been there and we know how terrible that was at times. So let's just break this down. What is power creep? I guess this is the first thing we should probably discuss here. Essentially, what power creep is adding power to all of the other heroes instead of addressing the originator of the balance problem of that time. So when we look at, I mean, we're obviously going to talk about the changes which Aaron has sort of alluded to in his blog update. But we're also going to look at changes that Blizzard have been making in the past in this video. And I think one hero sort of comes to mind, and that hero is Bastion. Things started to go pretty bad when Bastion started to become very strong. Now, the reason for that is Bastion, he's like an engine of the meta in my eyes. So what he was doing is he was forcing tank selections. So, for example, if you wanted to play, Bastion is being played into your Reinhardt, you're going to have a bad day as Reinhardt because all Bastion is going to do is the moment he goes into assault mode, he's just going to destroy your barrier. You need to run away. You no longer become an effective tank. But wait, there are tanks out there who are effective tanks to that. You could look at the likes of, let's say, I'll go straight into Orisa. Orisa, she was an incredible counter to Bastion because she can spear spin. That is active damage mitigation. She can stop the damage output of the Bastion in assault mode. And also she could use Fortify to heavily reduce the damage. That's great. You look at other tanks, Zarya potentially, with the bubbles, although she was never really seen as a main answer to that. Sigma, though, again, a fantastic answer to Bastion, simply because you've got Suck and, that negates damage. So the moment you see him going into assault mode, what are you going to do? You're going to Suck. But that was months and months ago, and things have changed since then. And Blizzard are adding and adding and adding and adding buffs to a bunch of heroes instead of addressing the core problems. Now, there are more issues than just a Bastion. I'm not hating on Bastion in this video, but there are certain heroes. I think I've emoted there. So Anna, I'm not going to hate on Anna. Come on, snap out of the emote. What's he doing dancing? So obviously Anna is very strong because she's got anti-heal. I know the rest of her kit is still great. Anti-heal, though, an ability which stops healing. Healing and healing power creep is massive in Overwatch. And an ability that stops healing is super strong, right? But guess what? There's also an ability in the game, again from another support, that removes the anti-healing effect. Yes, Kiriko and her Suzu, which hilariously, Suzu has got a shorter cooldown timer than Soldier's Biotic Field now. I think Suzu is 15 seconds. Biotic Field is going up to 18 seconds. Anyway, Kiriko's Suzu, very strong because it also prevents you taking damage as well. That's the third sort of element in this equation we've got. And then, I guess the next support we can rag on is Batiste. Again, because he can use an ability, his lamp, which prevents damage completely. So when you look at the heroes, there are heroes that will always be super good because of their kit and the way they have been buffed. Now, there is a nerf coming to Batiste. He's having a reduction to his primary fire damage. That's okay. But, Bap's a support. Yeah, he's still going to be well, I say a reduction to his primary fire damage. It's a reduction to the amount of bullets he can fire. So it is an overall reduction to his damage if you were to empty a full magazine. Anyway, he's still got lamp. He's still got regenerative field. There's still other issues there that make him super tanky. Okay, let's talk about this whole thing about dive coming back and Blizzard are trying to push that back. Well, what are Blizzard doing? Well, Winston no longer... armor doesn't affect Winston's damage. Winston is doing full, true damage all of the time, straight into any target now. It doesn't matter if they've got armor. And I mean, I can kind of simulate this here. I could have been fancy, I guess, and loaded up a custom workshop thingy, but I'm not clever enough for that. But, look at this Brig, yeah? So Brig's here. I'm going to zap her. We're going to do damage to her armor. It's going to be less damage. And then we're going to do damage to her health, so effectively true damage. But watch the speed. So armor. Okay, now that's gone. And we're just going straight through to actual health pool. It's just going to be the effect from the health pool now. That makes Brig weaker. Also, Blizzard are reducing the whip shot damage buff, so it's only going to do 70 damage now instead of the increased amount that it did. So she's nerfed, but then Winston can do damage through armor. So this is bad news for Brig. But it's not only that, because there's another hero, and another, you could say, dive contingent hero, although I guess that's a little bit debatable these days, but whatever. Tracer is going back to doing 6 damage per shot. Now, that is a massive increase for Tracer. So, to just sort of like very quickly highlight this, it's going to be a poor highlight, but, you know, whatever. It sort of makes sense. So, this is currently the 5.5 damage per shot, right? You know, and this is obviously Tracer, ideal engagement range, all headshots. You know, okay, it's fast. It looks great. We're killing a bot. You know, it looks quick. But this is going to be even quicker now, because each damage is doing each bullet is doing 0.5 damage more. So instead of 5.5, it's now 6.6. This is like a massive buff to Tracer. But again, what is this doing to the likes of Brig? Where's she gone? Of Brig, you know. So Brig now is going to be scared of Winston, because Winston doesn't really care about her armor. She can't do as much damage to him as she could before. Also, there might be a Tracer going in, doing increased damage. She would have been dead there off a full clip, you know, with the new Tracer. Just totally dead. Also, as well, do be aware that in the training range, if we load tanks in, the tanks don't have their usual health pool. So, like, if we're shooting the tanks, they've got a reduced health pool. Tracer is not doing that much damage, and she won't do that much damage when they're when she's buffed. But the issue here is with this video is this idea of power creep, right? It's everything being increased, instead of looking back at going, what was actually bringing the game into disrepute, or having the foresight to go, could this hero and the way it's trending be an engine of meta change, and we need to address that, instead of going, actually, you know what? Bastion does so much damage. Let's just try and buff other tanks and other heroes to try and deal with Bastion. And then everyone's getting buffed, and then Bastion becomes an afterthought, and then other things start coming to the fore, and it's all because of those singular issues. So I just want to show you guys the patch notes, though, before we go and get even more into this. So I'm going to pull this in from Overwatch Cavalry, just because it's a better formatted... basically, I can't be asked to format it myself. So good job, lads. But yeah, like, look at the changes, right? So Doomfist, Meteor Strike, he'll now regenerate 75 health per second, and the ultimate cost has been increased to offset that. Right, so that's, again, going, Doomfist is a bit fragile. Let's just give him a way of giving himself a bit more health when he uses his ultimate. But the idea there is to try and promote offensive usage of it. So you can almost sometimes argue that it's a bit oversimplistic, the balance of Overwatch. And there's not really any kind of, like, finesse with some of the key issues with the game. Now, it must be said, as I'm discussing and going through this, I still think the game is actually okay to play. You know, I'm not playing the game at an ultra-high level. You know, I'm very casual, really, in my approach to Overwatch. And I do have a good time playing. You know, I still do get annoyed if I see a Mei on the enemy team, or like, oh, they've just gone Bastion, so I need to now probably think about what I'm doing. I can't just be as gung-ho as I was before. If the Bastion knows what it's doing, if the Bastion's a terrible player, then yeah, you could take advantage of him. This is coming from a sort of tank player's perspective, or even, you know, being almost forced to go, I have to play Ana because we don't have an Ana on our team if I'm playing support, because anti-nade is so powerful. Things like that are like, they're not great. Not long-term for the game. They're just not great. Anyway, Ramatra, another tank that's just not been very effective. So we're going to give him more damage by increasing the size of his projectile, so it'd be easier to hit. And we're going to give him 100 armor. Now, that doesn't matter when he comes to face Winston, because Winston just doesn't care about armor anymore. But yeah, they're just making him more tanky. Okay, again, this is power creep. Like, the whole patch is just adding, really. Winston, now this is the crazy one where, like I said, it's just straight up, we are going to let you do damage through armor as if armor doesn't exist. So you do the same amount of damage to armor as you do to health. This is really good for reasons I explained in this video. Sombra, this again is a horrific one. This is horrible, because locking players out of ability usage feels terrible. The defense Blizzard have given us, that we've seen in the update, was essentially, yeah, this plays more into the hero fantasy. It does, but it is absolutely shit to play against when you cannot use your abilities. Now, what are Blizzard thinking? Like I said, plays to the fantasy, but also it is EMP is hacking, right? It's the big ultimate moment. Boom, everyone's hacked. Oh no, we can't use our abilities. This is going to feel terrible, and 3 seconds is an absolute eternity in Overwatch terms. So again, very strange. But to offset this, the damage has been reduced from 30 to 25% of, I believe, health remaining, not maximum health. That might be a typo, but if it's maximum health, the main issue here is is the ability lockout time. That's going to feel terrible. Soldier 76 just gets a completely wildly pointless nerf. Like, this is just, I don't know. I don't think anyone was like, wow, this feels terrible. Soldier's got his biofield. You expect him to use his biofield, right? I don't know. That, again, is weird. And this kind of does come down to some of the things that we do see in balance with Overwatch, where there's almost like a random change for no reason. It's like, oh, by the way, yeah, Soldier, your biofield is now not as effective as it was. It's like, well, why? What? You know, was that actually called for? The only disclaimer I've got is I think that they probably got data that says, oh, look, Soldier's doing too much healing, or we think this ability's got too much uptime, so let's just action it. Or maybe it's just we haven't looked at this hero for ages. Let's just do something. I don't know. Like I said, Tracer's Pulse Pistols going back to 6 damage is actually crazy. Brig getting Whip Shot reduced back down to 70, and then Bap getting his primary fire ammo reduced from 45 to 36. So there are some little nerfs there, but again, the overall issue of the power creep is still there. But what I want to do is show you guys this. Take a look at this. So this is, these are the patch notes, but these are not the current patch notes. These are the patch notes from October the 31st. So these are outdated patch notes, right? But when you scroll through this, you'll start seeing the, you know, I think actually we'll just do this in the video. But as you go through it back in time, you start seeing this like insane power creep. And I've got to think this has to be because, can I say this? I'm going to say it. I reckon when you nerf a hero, it really pisses off the player base of that hero, right? The people that want to play that character. But if you buff the hero, everyone loves it. So if you're doing like sort of minor nerfs, because maybe sometimes you have to, but everything is generally a buff, then you've got more people playing the game. I don't know. It's an odd one. It's an odd one. Anyway, look at this, right? So Winston, Tesla Cannon. The secondary fire range has been increased from 30 to 40. So again, this is going back the other month. We're starting to see this increase of power. It's like, okay, let's let you do more damage at range, Winston. Then the month after, let's let you just ignore armor, Winston. Where do we go after this? You know, is Winston just going to become some super hard meta tank that can't? I mean, I still think he's going to struggle. I mean, you're not going to front line with Winston, right? And he's still going to struggle against Bastion. But Winston now, if he goes into the back line, he's just more effective. Because if they've got a Brig who is meant to counter dive in some respects, or at least be very effective against it, he's now not as effective against it because Winston can just ignore your armor. But then look at this Bastion. So you start to see there is a little bit of reining back. You know, it's like, okay, configuration assault cooldown is increased from 10 to 12 seconds, and we've increased the weapon spread. But it's very minor. You see what I mean? Like an extra 2 seconds on the cooldown. Nobody really cares too much about it, because the thing with Bastion is he's still got the same amount of time in the mode, and that's the problem. Having to wait a few seconds, you could, I mean, this is absolutely crazy to say, but you could even see that as a buff if you're a bit more, you've got a bit more time to think about when to use it. It's like, well, should I use it now? Oh, I've got 2 seconds extra to think. Okay, I'll use it. And then you start piling the damage in. May, we start seeing a bit of a reduction to May there with a slow effect. You go, ultimate cost was just increased for Sombra. That was after a rework. You know, we could just go on and on and on. I mean, like, look at this bio grenade. Cooldown increase from 10 to 12 seconds. Again, it's a little minor nerf, but it doesn't really look at the main issue of what the anti-nade does. The fact that it applies anti-heal, and not being able to heal is absolutely crippling in Overwatch. It's a great moment for the Ana. You throw that grenade in. Uh-oh, look, they're all purple. Let's go, team. But it is just literally throwing an ability and getting a massive return, which is another issue we see with Overwatch quite a bit, which is I'm not going to use the term low skill, because I don't think that's fair. But I think heroes that don't particularly have, let's say, I mean, look, we're ragging on Bastion. Hang on, we don't want Bastion there. I want to be Bastion. Heroes that don't really take much. It is effort, it is skill, so I just need to say it, to get return. And when you look across the DPS category, if you look at, well, we'll just leave Bastion there, but I'm Bastion now. If I'm just like, you know, I'm with my team, I'm waiting for assault mode to become available, you know, I'm just trying to do damage at range, whatever, I'm doing a bit of poke, maybe a bit of right click there, you know, it's all fine. I'm not, you know, this is all you're really doing with Bastion. Now I've got assault mode ready to go. I see the enemy tank, or even enemy, like a large hitbox enemy, like Bastion, is in the way. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to kill him. So I'm just going to go into this mode, and then I'm just going to destroy him. Like, me doing this, it sort of does, like, look at the power there. The power is incredible. And all you need to be able to do is aim. Now, if I was to break Soldier 76 out and play him in the same sort of way as the Bastion I just was, I'm not going to have that. There isn't that moment of, you better respect the Bastion. Now, I know there are ways of countering this. Team can run away. You know, you could have a, you know, if this was a Sigma, and now again, remember the health is not what it is on live here. It's reduced in the practice range. But a Sigma does have the ability to use Suck, which is going to negate my damage completely. So if he's caught out of position, I'm joking. I literally choked to death and I've lost the cooldown, but whatever. But the point is, he can react to it, yeah? And this forces a selection of that hero. So you kind of see where I'm going here, guys. Now, again, like what I've got to say, I'm not a high-level player of Overwatch, right? I'm obviously a massive fan. I've got crazed, well, thousands of hours in the game. I was incredibly high when I grinded the game like crazy. Now I'm a lot more casual, but that still doesn't mean that we can't look at and try and highlight some of the, I guess, directions the balance of the game is going in. So I just think there's been a bit of an issue when it comes to trying to address where the problems were coming from, and instead just trying to push everybody else's power level up to deal with it. The point I was making is, if I'm in this mode now and he's sucking, well, I can't fire at him, because if I do that, he would actually benefit from that, right? So he would gain shields, which isn't great. He could also throw his barrier into my face if things were getting desperate as well. Whereas obviously a Reinhardt has no answer to that. And should a Reinhardt have an answer to that? Well, should a Bastion be doing as much damage as he does? Now, there is one other thing we've got happening, which is Mauga is going to be available very soon in the game. Mauga has got a... We'll load Ryan in here, because he's sort of the only one with a similar hitbox. Mauga's hitbox is actually... It's wider, right? I don't think he's as tall, but he's wider. He's a big, chunky boy. He's very easy to hit, isn't he? So what does that mean for Mauga? Well, I mean, it means Bastion would get played into him and just kill him. Mauga's not very good at range either. Okay, he's got a bit of poke. We expect him to get buffed as well. But he's not going to be dueling a Bastion at any sort of range when Bastion's in his actual assault mode, pouring the damage into him. But you've got Ana, you know, and what's Ana going to do to a big, massive target if this was Mauga? Well, you're just going to throw that at him. You could also put him to sleep. But you're going to hit him with anti-nade, and anti-nade is going to stop him doing what he needs to do and give your team a chance to deal with them. Same with, you know, maybe the enemy team's got a BAP, so they see this go in and they throw Lamp down now. I mean, is this the game that we want? You know, would you, as a player of Overwatch, think that that is a high-skill PvP game? You know what I'm saying? It's like... Honestly, I could talk about this for hours, but yeah, imagine nade goes in. Oh well, Bap just throws his lamp down, or even the Kiriko example is even better. I mean, I can't really use it on an offensive. I think they removed the boot though, didn't they, from Kiriko's Suzu? I think they did, right? Yeah. But like being able to just remove a target from taking damage as well is just, you know, ridiculous. So imagine anti-nades hit this bot in front. It's fine. Oh, the cooldown's not up yet, but it's fine. I'm just going to throw Suzu in. Anti-nade's gone. Obviously, while I'm doing that, I'm healing as well. I don't know whether this is the direction we want the game to go in, to be honest. And I still think it's early days. I don't think it's all, you know, like doom and gloom right now. I know there's been a lot of reaction to this. I mean, way too much reaction to I guess, cover. But, like, these are my thoughts on this after looking at these changes and thinking, right, what is the overarching... philosophy behind the balance of the game at the moment? And it just seems to be, let's just keep adding, let's keep adding, let's keep adding, let's just keep pushing heroes, pushing them forward, adding more stats, not really addressing some of the issues. I mean, maybe I could be quite controversial saying this, but it's probably about time they do look at things that do give you invulnerability. They do look at things that prevent healing, you know, those things, and also buttons that you press that just give you a massive moment of like, uh-oh, I can do incredible damage now, or I've got incredible... I guess you could even say survivability or something. I don't know. But I think the issue with this and what I'm targeting at the moment is not so much the tanks. I think the tank role has got enough problems as it is. So I don't want people to think, oh, well, let's get rid of Sigma's Suck because then I would not be very happy, or Diva's Defense Matrix and things like that, because they actually need them. Orissa's a bit of a different one. We could talk about Orissa, I suppose, a little bit. She is... again, it's just that idea of... It's the return. It's like what you get for what you're doing. You know, like if you're pushing the enemy with Orissa, you can just straight go into them like you don't even care. Oh yeah, you're gonna use an ability. Oh whatever, I'll just do this. I mean, Orissa can actually get out of crowd control effects with this. So if she's being froze by Mei in her ultimate, it doesn't matter. I'll just pop Fortify and walk away. You know, in fact, Mauga can charge away from that as well. So I don't know. But power creep, I think, is a bit of an issue in this game. I don't think it's an easy thing to solve. I think it's difficult, but I also think what we're dealing with at the moment is just like almost feels scattershot, where like the patches are just being almost implemented because they need to hit a deadline of it's the start of a season, so we just need to make changes. Or if something is critically broken, God, I don't know why I'm coughing so bad, but if something is critically broken, then yeah, maybe we'll fix it. But it's almost like they're just making changes for the sake of it a lot of the time. It doesn't feel like there's an overarching plan or reason to where the balance is going. And the thing is, we can't just keep adding numbers like this. We can't just keep giga buffing heroes, like multiple heroes, and just seeing where things go, because things will just go very, very south very quickly as certain heroes just get incredible levels of power, which we're already seeing at the moment right now. Now, of course, big disclaimer at the end of this video. Overwatch is it is a complicated game, and it isn't all cut and dry. Often when we talk about balance, it generally is. If you've got 5 of the same players versus 5 of the same players skill-wise, yeah, that's when you start seeing the issues. You know, if you've got somebody who's incredibly good on Soldier 76 and somebody on a Bastion who's not as good as them as a player, it doesn't mean that that Bastion is instantly going to cause the other team to lose. The Soldier might play really well. The tanks on your team, it might even be a Reinhardt, might be able to play around the Bastion to some degree. But it's always often this ideal world, this, I guess, fanciful world in some ways, of equal skill level. And at the end of the day, that's what competitive is trying to do. It's trying to matchmake us with players of a similar skill level so we have an equal game. And when that happens, we don't want a game where it's like, well, we need Ana, we need Kiriko, we need Bastion, we need either Sigma or Orisa as a tank. Every other tank's just not going to work. Or maybe this new Giga Winston works. Or people going, we can't play Brig anymore because they'll just pick Winston and zap the crap out of her and she'll die. These are problems, I think. Anyway, I think Mei's the best DPS in the game at the moment. Let me know what you think about this, guys, in the comments. This is a very complex thing. Like, the balance of Overwatch is so complicated. You know, there's going to be things I've said here that people are just going to be like, you're mad, Star. What are you even talking about? But I want to know what you guys think about this. I do think the trajectory, I can't say that word. I'm just going to stop. Of the game, balance is just sort of need looking at. All right, guys, thank you for listening and watching the video. And as ever, stay tuned for more quality content. I'll catch you guys on the next one. See you soon.